Hey everyone, it's Byron here to testify for Jesus Christ. I'm going to title this one Seducing Spirits. And I'm not stating anything in this video to be a fact. I am throwing some information out because it's things that I've experienced, and I just want people to be aware that I saw this or things were revealed to me in this way. And I want you to be aware it could possibly be also being revealed to you in that way. Um, I want to read from 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'll start at verse 1, and I'm not going very far. But anyway, it states, Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. Now, I want to focus very narrowly for a moment on seducing spirits, and then I want to tell you a little about the word seducing. All you got to do is read in the Bible. You can read about seduction, being carried away with things, especially in the Proverbs. You can see things in the Proverbs there. These are actual facts that I can state. I believe, based on my experience, I was seeing expressions of seducing spirits. In one, had a dream. I was shown that World War II generals were still at war with people here with the United States. I could see them in a hotel lobby, and they were talking back and forth. They were still dressed in the old World War II Nazi uniforms. Then, right before my very eyes, in the dream, those people, those men, changed into provocatively dressed women. And I'm telling you, I guess for the effect, the way it came across to me, I could not hardly resist them. Now, that was the end of the dream. But what I think was happening, just to draw correlation, if you take, for example, abortion, um, since Roe versus Wade, or whichever one kicked things off and got things going, I think it was Roe versus Wade. Um, People have been being killed in this country at an alarming rate that exceeds the rate that Jews were exterminated during World War II. So a genocide is taking place within the United States, utilizing similar methods that the Nazis used. But people have been seduced by provocation into following this, and it's somewhat accepted openly among many people and shunned by others. But generally, there's not a lot of uproar about it. So a nation was seduced potentially by seducing spirits and led to follow a genocide worse than Nazi World War II genocides of the Jews. So that's an example of seducing spirits that I believe that the Lord showed me, how our government is run by men who have similar goals as the Nazis, and we were being seduced. So the seduction is so great, we want it. That's one example. And another example, I'm going to use Jezebel. Jezebel is a spirit of control. It operates in two different modes. One is a type A type Jezebel. The other is a kind of a smart, sly type operating spirit. But there's a person in my life who the Lord has consistently shown me since 2008 is a Jezebel. and is doing seductive things, draw me in, doing things like that. And I've seen that person naked many times. And when I did see them that way, it was like, come on. And it was hard for me to resist. That was in a dream. But it was very difficult to resist in the dream itself. There's one other example that I want to use. I'm having a little trouble thinking about it. Okay. Um, in another case, I saw where um, there was going to be protest here in the United States. But the protest, when the protesters went about their protesting, this one lady just stripped down naked and, right there in front of everybody, turned it into, well, let me hang out and watch the protest because this lady's naked, There was an attraction that would draw people to the protest. So there's going to be potentially in the future, there's going to be what people would consider just causes. They will rise up and protest powers to be because things have been spun in such a way, it seduced people. It brought them to the point to where they were easily drawn in by seduction. In a visual sense, the Lord shows it as he has to me as naked women. Biblically, in several times during the Bible, you'll see the same thing portrayed through Proverbs or anything like that. It's just beware of the lady who paints her lips. And here's one other example. I saw a lady who painted her lips real red. And when I looked on her, this is a dream, but when I looked on her, it was tough. It was like, gosh, man, this is hard to resist. And she stated she was going to move with me. And, I didn't know this person from Adam, but in hindsight, when I look back on it and I see what unfolded and all that stuff, it was a false teacher who was false teaching over YouTube, who was using seductive words. And by seductive words, I don't mean it has to appear seductive. It's just done in such a manner that it draws you in some way, some shape, fashion. Anyway. Now, why do I mention all this stuff? I mention this because we sometimes may run into things that we may think that, well, that's X-rated. Or others may think it's X-rated, like, well, that had the allusion to sex, and that had the allusion to seduction, that had the allusion to nudity, or had nudity, etc. And it's because it's from the devil, or it's because it's just of a bad thing. But in all actuality, it could be something being expressed to you in such a way that you realize, I could be drawn into this if I'm not very careful. And the examples that I just used were to help that. So it is possible that the Lord could show you something that, if you look at it, from a shallow look, it seems to be sexual and seductive. But if you look at the whole thing, it could actually be what I'm speaking of. It's a seduction. There's no way to confuse World War II generals who turn into naked women that are very provocative and seductive. There's no way to confuse that other than Byron, I, God, am showing you how the nation is being seduced. And they're being seduced by these people that, you see what I'm saying? So my whole purpose behind this was just to make people aware that with me, the Lord has shown me things like that. And I know I'm not the only one. And there's biblical verses that talk about seduction and it being negative because people getting seduced into things. So anyway, I'm gonna let you go. That right there is just something that's come up with me that I felt needed to share. I just want to make sure people are aware that, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, just because it looks sexual and just because it seduces or has a very powerful draw does not necessarily mean that all the time it is specifically just that. It can be the usage of seduction to demonstrate the power that words have or persuasion, etc. So thank you.